Guys, let's talk about it. It's time to make some garlic knots. It's right in time for the Super Bowl season. Let's get into it. These garlic knots are going to require 300 grams or 300 milliliters of water, and we're going to mix that into 14 grams of instant yeast here. We're going to start stirring that up here with a fork to make sure that everything is all incorporated into our liquid. And then for some crazy reason, we're going to go ahead and drop one egg yolk inside too as well. That's going to make a eggy yolk yeast water thing. I don't know what you want to call it, but we're going to need it in order to create our dough. Go ahead and drop in 525 grams of all-purpose flour, 42 grams of granulated sugar, and 11 grams of fine sea salt. Go ahead and take a whisk and whisk all those ingredients in together. This is very important because if it's not incorporated, it's going to be all clumpy and you're going to have a big knot of salt in your mouth or granulated sugar in your mouth. You don't want that. I've seen it before. I remember when I took a culinary class in high school, someone didn't whisk their ingredients together and just took a big knot of, anyway, enough of that. So go ahead and pour your eggy fluid inside of a mixer here, and don't be like me. Actually know how to use your mixer. Once you put the liquid in there, you're gonna slowly drop in your flour mixture inside of the hand mixer there. Well, you could use a hand mixer. This is a stand mixer, but if you wanted to use a hand mixer, you could. This is gonna take a little bit more time, and I don't really recommend it because, you need a slow and steady kind of stirring pattern with these stand mixers here. So mixing it all together, just slowly put it in there. Not just a general recommendation too, whenever you're making something with dough incorporated in it to it, you want to use the liquid as the base and use the dry ingredients as something you add into it. So basically always add your dry ingredients to your wet ingredients. Don't do vice versa. It's usually the wet ingredients that are where the flavor lies, and you want to get as much flavor as possible in there. And plus, it's a lot easier to put in dry ingredients in somewhere and making sure that all the dry ingredients get inside versus the other way around where you can't get the liquid out and it makes a big of a mess, This makes it easy. So go ahead and pour it all inside of your stand mixer slowly but surely. If it gets stuck over on the sides, it's a-okay. Just go ahead and take a rubber spatula, push it down, and make sure that all the dough is nice and mixed together. Now, once our dough is starting to look all incorporated and cool looking, go ahead and drop in some butter. Now, the thing about the butter, it's just like when you were incorporating the dough here. You want to make sure that the butter is actually soft too as well. Don't be cold. If it's cold, you'll be sitting here for days. And this takes about, it takes some time for this all to mix in together here. It's not going to be a quick throw in for 2 minutes and all of a sudden you're done kind of thing. It's going to take a while for it to mix in there. So expect to at least spend about 5 minutes or so to get the dough to form and about 1 to 2 minutes for the butter to actually adhere to the dough. Don't worry about overbeating it as well. That's why we went into slow speeds. Now from here, we're gonna go ahead and form a ball with our dough. Now, don't be like me. This is a learnable experience here I just had here. I should have put a little bit of flour on there and I did not. So some of it did stick to my wooden cutting board. And one of the main reasons why you wanna have it into a nice smooth-ish kind of ball is it's just gonna make it look more appealing once it's finishedly baked. You'll notice I have like maybe 1 or 2, I don't know what you want to call them. They're not cracks, maybe dents or something. I don't know what you want to call them, but you'll notice it in the final product. So once you get it all mixed in your hand, feeling all good there, you're gonna go ahead and drop it inside of a large bowl here. We're gonna begin a proofing process, which basically means we're gonna let this sit here room temperature for about an hour. This is gonna cause the dough to expand, and then later on, after an hour has passed, we will push it down and it will deflate. And you can see it's not the smoothest in the world, especially since it's blown up, but it doesn't matter, I'm gonna push it down anyway. But you know, when it's nice and smooth, you won't see those little cracks that I was talking about. They'll be nice and smooth, but it doesn't change the flavor. So the show must go on. We're not feeling bad about that. On a lightly floured surface, add in your dough. At this point, we're gonna start to lightly flour our top too as well. Not too much flour because we don't want flour taste in our garlic knots. And we're gonna roll that down on a rolling pin here. So begin rolling it out here. The whole goal is to get this into about a 7 or 8 inch kind of log shape here. So you might have to go back and forth in certain areas. A-okay. If at any point the dough sticks to your rolling pin, which can happen as well, just sprinkle just a tiniest little bit of flour on there and it will make sure that the dough doesn't stick to it. Now, also another teachable moment for me here. I thought I had a measurements eye, and I do not have a measurements eye. I cannot measure for anything, but ideally you want to just take about 1 inch of dough and twist it with your hands, forming a knot, just like if you were to tie a shoe. You would take the knot around, your fingers and then push it through the hole, and then you have your garlic knot just like that. You're gonna push that into a tray here and allow them to gather as they all knot up there. These garlic knots are gonna be so good, by the way. I don't know about y'all, but I decided to make these garlic knots for a Super Bowl party that I'm throwing. Well, it's a Super Bowl lawn chair party, and I plan on making this. I plan on making some pizza sliders too as well. I'll be making a video about that later on. But I plan on making some pizza sliders, these garlic knots, some oxtail nachos, some chocolate chip cookies. It's gonna be a good time. Good time. Y'all are invited. Y'all are all invited. I'm just letting you know that. Anyway, after a while, go ahead and line them up on a baking sheet and let them sit there in all of their glory as you cover them with a identical twin baking sheet. Taking some saran wrap, I know it's everyone's enemy. It always takes more than one, but take some saran wrap and surround the garlic knots here. And once again, we're gonna reproof them. We've let them proof once, and now they will be proofed again for another hour. So 1 more hour of proofing for these. As we let our bread rise, we move on to our butter. We're gonna go ahead and start our toppings by melting some butter along with some garlic. Now, very optional, you can use roasted garlic such as myself, and all you need to do to make roasted garlic is to take a whole garlic, chop it in half, and put some olive oil on top. Put in aluminum foil, throw it in the oven for about an hour. Comes out all droopy, you can push it right in there, but it gives a very rich garlic flavor to it. So just imagine the best way to put it is you're toasting garlic, and anything that is toasted usually tastes a lot better when it's not toasted. So, and after 30 minutes have passed, you'll notice that the garlic knots are huge. Holy, double the size, right? You can call these jumbo knots. That's what happens when you don't measure them out correctly. Some are definitely bigger than the other ones, but that's all good. They all taste the exact same. Some just have a little bit extra love into it. So we're gonna go and add in our garlic butter that we just created. I'm gonna drab that gently on top of these garlic knots. Gonna taste so delicious. I'm so happy for you. I'm happy for you because you're gonna be able to enjoy this just like I did. I'm trying to lose weight, so I'm not really eating like this like all the time anymore. That's why I kind of just slow down with the uploads, because I'm like, hold on, I can't bake all these sweet stuff. I can't eat all this sweet stuff all the time. That's not how I eat. So when it's time to eat, when it's time to throw down, like these garlic knots, yeah, absolutely. We're absolutely gonna go in, make sure these garlic knots are just perfect in flavor, everything you want it to be. Like, it's your perfect cheat meal kind of deal. Like, I want to make sure that when I'm eating bad, It's good. It's really good. Now, once we finish buttering up our garlic knots, we're gonna go ahead and put it into our oven between 15 to 20 minutes at 400 degrees Fahrenheit. You'll know when it's done when it's nice and golden brown. But while that's in the oven baking, we've got to get our toppings together. We're gonna grab the freshest Italian parsley we can possibly find and dice that up as finely as we can. I do like to note that you don't want to dice this up too much. When you dice up parsley or any other herb too much, it becomes this wet and kind of mushy texture, and it doesn't really look as good when you're topping it with whatever you're making. And in this instance is garlic knots. So try not to get too much into it, just enough so it's finely diced so you won't inhale a whole leaf, but it's still appealing to your eye. Because at the end of the day, the more appealing your food, the better it tastes. Next up, we're gonna finally grate one of my favorite cheeses, and I only really say it's my favorite because to pronounce this cheese off the top of my head is very comical. Parmigiano Reggiano. Someone out there is probably screaming to the top of their lungs on how I pronounce that cheese, but trust me, it's all from a good heart. It's all from a good heart. But this cheese, we're finally grating it here. We want it fresh here. Don't get the bag stuff. The bag stuff has starch on there, and starch it makes it harder to melt. So whenever you buy shredded cheese in a bag and you're trying to melt it over something, whether it be you're making mac and cheese, or in this case, you're trying to get a nice kind of fresh melt on your garlic knots, that starchy cheese is not going to be your friend. So don't pick that up. Grab the freshest block of cheese from your grocery store that you can find, get a grater, and get it going. Now, once the garlic knots are done out the oven, they should have a lightly brown color to them. At this point, once they're cooled off enough, go ahead and remove them from the pan and add them to a big bowl. It's at this point that we're gonna go ahead and start topping our garlic knots. Taking the remaining butter that we made initially to coat outside the garlic knots, we're gonna dump the remaining butter onto these garlic knots. Now, I felt like mine just needed a little bit extra butter, mostly because I had some really big pieces, so I decided to actually add some extra butter. We're gonna go ahead and sprinkle our cheese on top too as well that we just finally chopped up, as well as our Italian parsley. I mean, look at the color of our garlic knots. Don't they look great? Those will look so good, man. I remember eating this like yesterday. It was so good. Go ahead and fold all those ingredients together inside of that bowl. I mean, look at the bottom of those garlic knots, man. Oh man, soft on the outside, just crunchy, nice soft on the outside, crunchy on the bottom. Not too much though, but just good enough. We gotta go ahead and plate these gorgeous things, and while I'm doing so, I think I'm gonna take now to say that if you enjoyed this video, if you got something from it, or you're just ready to join me on this magical journey of cooking and my weight loss journey with a side of cheat meals, please give me a like, hit the subscription button to see my foolishness from time to time, and the real main thing I want you to do is just let me know what kind of appetizers or food that you like to eat when you're watching football. Like, this is for my Super Bowl party, my Super Bowl lawn chair party here. Lawn chair party? It's not called a lawn chair party. A tailgate party. It's for my tailgate party, and I want this to really pop when my guests arrive, and I think they're gonna love it. Your guests are gonna love it too. If you decide to make it for them, you might want to selfishly eat it all to yourself, but I don't judge you. And there you go, guys. Fresh garlic knots. I hope that your friends, you and your family enjoy these. They just taste so good. It's buttery, it's garlic, it has a nice chew to it. It's definitely worth a cheat meal. I'll catch you guys next time and have a great day.